You're watching the KUAM News 2024 Congressional Debate. I'm Nick Delgado. We're coming to you live from inside the Encore Theater here at the Crowne Plaza Resort in Tumon. We want to thank our partners as well, Docomo Pacific. Let's bring out the candidates. Under the Republican ticket, incumbent James Moylan and his opponent under the Democrat ticket, Ginger Cruz. Hafaday. Candidates, we will have a coin toss to see who will answer first and who will get the last word of the night. All right. As Congressman Moylan being the incumbent, he will get to call tonight's coin toss. Jason? And it's heads. Ginger, you win the coin toss. Would you like to go first, or would you like to give it to Congressman Moylan?
I will go last.
Okay. Thank you. Candidates, please take your positions at the podium. And Congressman Moylan will take the first question. All right, thank you guys so much for joining us as well here in the audience. Let's get to the debate. Tonight, the candidates will spend 90 minutes taking questions from your news team and from community organizations we've invited here tonight. There will be no opening statements. Each candidate being posed a question will get 60 seconds to answer. The opponent will get 60 seconds for rebuttal, followed by the candidate posed the question getting 30 seconds to respond. Timers right up front here, candidates. We'll be giving you a 30-second and 10-second countdown. Mics will be muted when time belongs to the other candidate. Neither candidates tonight were given topics or questions ahead of the debate, and candidates are not allowed to bring notes, but we are providing a notepad and pen for them during tonight's debate. All right, candidates. Congressman Moylan, first question. How would you reconcile the military buildup concerns of local residents and indigenous rights groups with regard to land use and environmental impact?
Well, thank you for that question. And first, I'd just like to thank the audience for being with us here tonight. I especially, as a veteran myself, serving in the Army, started as an enlisted and now moved my way up to an officer. I want to thank the veterans that are here tonight as well. And that's what's important about your question. How will we balance this out? This is the one island approach. In my communications with the Joint Regional Marianas and the Joint Regional Micronesia has been very well. We continue with that open discussion on how to move things forward with the governor's office as well, with the administration and with the villages too. Every concern that is brought from the island is relayed back to the Joint Regional Marianas. It's important for the military to ensure that this is done correctly. We want the buildup to happen for the protection of the island, but most importantly, we want to make sure it's done right. And as your representative and as a member also of the House of Armed Services, your voice is being heard to make sure that does happen.
Thank you, Congressman Moylan. That's
Thank
your
you.
time. Ginger, your rebuttal.
Thank you very much, and thank you to everybody who's here today. You know, this is a really critical issue for the people of Guam because we are facing some of the most dangerous times. But while we are facing dangerous times and while we are the tip of the military spear, we also need to understand that the ensuring of Guam's land rights, the ensuring of our culture, and the existence of the people of Guam have to be the #1 priority. And that is what the Indo-PACOM commander has said. He said the most important thing is the lives of 170,000 U.S. U.S. citizens that are living on this island. So we have to balance that. I would have an open door policy to ensure that the issues that are faced for our environment and for our land must be respected and must be incorporated. And I believe that the U.S. military will listen to those and will incorporate them, but it has to be done through aggressive dialogue to ensure that those concerns are incorporated into how the military buildup is executed on our island. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congressman Moylan, you have 30 seconds to respond.
I also have regular monthly meetings with Rear Admiral Hoffman and Rear Admiral DeVore. Just a few days ago, we had our discussion on what's the importance. We're looking at landmass use, we're looking at doing things properly, but we're also looking at the missile defense system on Guam and the testing that's coming up for the safety of the island, which I will be a part of as well, and to ensure the security of our infrastructure is protected as well and fortified as we build our island's sustainability with FEMA working hand in hand with the military and as well.
Thank you, both candidates, for your responses to that question. Next question is over to candidate Cruz. What strategies would you implement to diversify Guam's economy and reduce its reliance on military support?
So diversifying our economy is super important. First of all, we have to expand our engagement in the broadband arena. All of these undersea cables come and crisscross through Guam, and that is a whole area where we need to leverage that. We need to improve the capability of our electricity so that we have clean electricity, and we need to create high-paying jobs. But we also have to leverage the military buildup. The first thing we need to do in that case is bring back the ship repair facility. Those were 2,500 really good-paying jobs, and we need to bring that back for the island of Guam. And then there's additive manufacturing. That has already seen some activity by the government of Guam, but in Congress there's a lot more that can be done to support that, because that is an area where we need to see progress. If there's going to be more military activity on Guam, then the companies on Guam and the people of Guam need those jobs and need those contracts, and we have to make sure that that happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Congressman Moylan, your rebuttal.
It's important to notice that it's very costly to do business on Guam. We need to ensure that the cost of that is reduced as much as possible. First of all, let's discuss about our port. Our port is in dire need of a lot of improvements, but what I also like to see as an improvement is to consider our port with a study that I've already introduced to make this a customs zone, a U.S. customs zone, as a study to consider to make our ports a seaport for the U.S. as well. But also, more importantly, that we can have shipping companies from Asia come on in here and make this port a base for Guam as in the Asia Pacific, to make it workable, to reduce the cost of goods, to attract companies to Guam, to have a good environment, to the infrastructure, to be sure that it's sound and secure. With making it solid, we need reliable electricity, which we're working with FEMA as well. So the infrastructure must be good. Our ports must be able to handle if we want to create additional businesses to come into Guam.
Thank you. Candidate Cruz.
Thank you. So federalizing our customs is something that I actually had a press release that I put out today. We need to be very careful before we do that, because if we federalize customs, the first thing that's going to happen, U.S. Customs has higher fees. And you know what that means? The cost of all of the goods and services on Guam will go up, because U.S. Customs is going to charge import tariffs, and the Guam Customs doesn't do that. So we have to be very careful about things that we ask for, because federalizing could end up costing the people of Guam a lot of money.
All right, Congressman Moylan, next question. Does increasing military presence make Guam safer or make Guam a target?
Test. All right, there we go. As a member of the House of Armed Services here, it is the defense of the island of Guam that we are concerned with. It's the National Defense Authorization Act, not the National Defense Aggression Act. We are defending the island against our enemies. We saw a missile test from the Republic of China that went over the Philippines, that came by Guam and ended up in the seas just off the south of Hawaii. We need the military to protect the island of Guam, our freedoms for the Mariana Islands, the open sea chains, the Indo-PACOM area. They are here to defend, not aggress. If we don't have the military here, we're an open target. This will make our island safer. Making our island safer makes it safer for our community, makes it safer for businesses that want to come in, makes it safer for our nation as well. This is the homeland. Indo-PACOM said, Commander said, we are here to defend the homeland. We are here to defend the people of Guam.
Thank you, Congressman. Candidate Cruz, your rebuttal.
Thank you. Well, that is actually sort of a false question because we can't really ask that question. Nobody on Guam is able to say, yes, we want military buildup or no, we don't, because we're an unincorporated territory. So we have to deal with what we've got. And the thing that we have to understand is we need to take care of the homeland. Right now, we need to be fighting for significantly more help for both civil defense, homeland security, and our National Guard so that we can ensure that we are prepared because we don't have that choice. We can't say, yes, we want more military buildup, or no, we don't. That choice is made completely outside of our ability to influence it. And so what we can influence is our ability to fight for the resources so at least we can protect the homeland. At least we can be informed so that when we have all of these tests for all of these emergency systems, who here in the audience or who at home knows what do we do if one of those actually goes off? We have to be prepared. We have to do a better job, get more resources, and make sure that we on Guam are prepared.
Thank you. Congressman Moylan, your follow-up.
We have engaged the National Guard into the Joint Regional Marianas by making them part of the plan to defend the island of Guam. The National Guard will be part of that plan to explain to Joint Regional Marianas the importance and what it takes to defend the island if in case an emergency does happen. We have brought in $3.2 billion in the first NDAA in FY24. We have $1.8 billion waiting to come in the following NDAA. This is all in defense of our nation, our island of Guam.
Thank you, candidates, for your responses. Candidate Cruz, this next question will begin with you. How will you direct federal resources to help our ailing public hospital?
So the first thing we need to do is we should have been doing this for the last 2 years. We need to upgrade the federal reimbursement. Right now, the Guam Memorial Hospital is being reimbursed at rates that were set in 2014. We all know nothing costs the same. It's been 10 years, and we have to upgrade that. We have to work in the Congress to get those TEFRA reimbursement rates up. The second thing we need to do is be really creative and figure out ways that we can get critical access designation for GMH, because that will open up a lot of opportunities for us to get more assistance and more help for our hospital. Plus, we need to come up with new ways to take care of the disabled and the elderly who are taking up bed space, because that bed space is needed by critical care, and we need to find alternatives so that we can truly help all of the people of Guam that have a variety of healthcare needs that are not being fully met by the federal government. There's a lot more that we can do, and I am committed to do it.
Congressman Moylan.
Guam Memorial Hospital needs additional money. Medicare and Medicaid rates are way below than what they should be. We've included in an appropriation measure the study to rebase those rates. That is wrong. That will be corrected. Medicaid also should have no cap. We instructed that to happen as well. In addition, we need more nurses. H2B was successful for our construction, and this time I'm having H2B be successful for the professions that we need to have on the island, especially nurses. And finally, portability of Medicare to the Philippines. We have a good hospital nearby. We need specialty care. That measure is in there as well. These are things I will continue to do as a member of Congress in the 119th to follow through to make it happen for Guam. Those are important to our island. Thank you.
Candidate Cruz, your follow-up.
So one of the things we need to look at is SSI, and we did not get SSI. When we lost Compact Impact, when my opponent was actually unable to get us included in the CFA regulations, we lost SSI once again, and we've not been able to get it. We need to fight for that, because that's going to help take some of that pressure off. And in addition to that, we do need to get rid of the Medicaid cap so that we can have more programs for our hospital and to help the homeless as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Congressman Moylan, we'll begin with you for this next question. What specific policies will you advocate for to promote economic growth in Guam, especially in light of our unique geographic and economic challenges?
There's a lot that can be done. Again, we have to ensure that our infrastructure is in place to do it right. That's why we have FEMA assisting us to harden it and make things better and done correctly before the next storm comes. In addition, of course, again, I've got to get back to the customs zone. This is important for us to open our seaways, to make our port more successful, to bring in more business. We can attract a lot of business as long as the island of Guam is safe with the missile defense system, with a proper infrastructure, and a willingness to be safe so we can come and build businesses here on the island of Guam that is well protected. This is how we're going to unite our Indo-PACOM area, allowing them to see the success come to the United States, where we are the most western part of the United States, to make this happen. Thank you.
All right. Candidate Cruz, your rebuttal.
I'm sorry, can you please repeat the question?
Yes. What specific policies will you advocate for to promote economic growth in Guam, especially in light of our unique geographic and economic challenges?
So to promote economic growth, the first thing that we need to do is we need to look to Asia, because that is an area where the federal government is doing more and more work. They are building up opportunities in the Philippines, in Korea, in Japan, and it's right next to Guam because we are America in the Pacific. So we need to start looking to the areas that are close to us and make Guam the bridge so that we're not only a military buildup location for the United States, so that we are an economic buildup location. Because when there are intergovernmental organizations that are having meetings, let's say ASEAN or all of the defense secretaries get together, wouldn't it be great if we could attract some of them, get Indo-PACOM to send them to Guam, to help our hotels, to help our industries to thrive by bringing some of that to Guam? That would be one way to do it. The other way is to get lower costs on Guam by getting more of our goods and services from Asia. Thank you.
Thank you. Congressman Moylan, your follow-up.
Again, we make Guam safe. Asia definitely wants to come and be part of this. We need to make it less expensive for them to come. We need our ports, we need the shipping lanes to come in as well. This is important to start business going. When as a senator, we're in the 35th and 36th Guam legislature, we also looked at tax breaks for these companies to come as well. There's continuous opportunities. Make Guam safe, make it safe for the people of Guam, make it safe for investors to come to Guam, and we can protect this Indo-PACOM area through commerce.
All right. Candidate Cruz, Guam in 2024 continues to deal with issues like load shedding. What policies would you support to promote renewable energy initiatives in Guam?
So right now, the Guam Power Authority has a pretty aggressive plan to get solar energy boosted, and I think they are well on the way to do that. There are federal programs which provide incentives to different industries to bring more of that renewable energy to Guam, and that is something that we need to look at. But one of the things I'm concerned about is we also have a federal government that is, without a lot of consultation with us, talking about putting windmills out in the ocean around Guam. And what concerns me is, have we actually discussed that? What is the impact going to be on fisheries? What is the impact going to be for the people of Guam? You know, there's also been visits by groups that are talking about nuclear energy. Now, that may be an option in the future, but we also need to be engaged. I am very concerned that we are not at the table and we are not understanding exactly what the implications are. The people of Guam and the citizens of Guam need to be engaged because, yes, we do need alternatives for energy, but we also need to know what is happening on our island.
Congressman Moylan, your follow-up.
Thank you. And I understand it's the people of Guam, that the administration that wants to decide the best source of alternative energy. I understand the administration is looking at the feasibility study to determine if the windmills out of the ocean are feasible. I support that decision. I understand GPA is looking at batteries to support clean energy. I support that decision as well. My duty as Congressman is something called Build America, Buy America. BA. And in tomorrow, BA means BABA, because the cost of getting those materials to whatever decision that the administration decides, whatever decision that the people of Guam decides, it's going to cost to bring materials over here. It shouldn't have to be because of the BABA, Build America, Buy America, but it should allow us to be exempt from that so we can get from our Asian counterparts that are in favor of the Indo-PACOM area working together so we can get lower lower supplies, and bring that price down on the decision that is made by the people of Guam, by the administration of Guam, and the professionals here on Guam, because we know what's best for Guam. Thank you.
Candidate Cruz, your follow-up?
Thank you. I think it's interesting because that Build America, Buy America program is the thing that is stopping our port from being able to get cranes in place. And you have got a congressional group that has basically put in place options where they're saying, let's go get our ships repaired in Korea. Let's go get them repaired in Japan. And yet when we on Guam need to get a crane, we can't get a crane because of the Build America, Buy America. And we need to fight. And he's talking about a port that works. Well, we need to fight harder and make sure that our port is able to do that and is able to put that material up.
All right. Congressman Moylan, water rates are going to spike over the next half decade. What proposals do you have to alleviate the rising costs that we will incur?
We're fortunate enough through my colleagues in Congress to get a $35 million grant for the Waterworks Authority on Guam. That's to build another water reservoir at Ugam, to upgrade the system at Ugam as well. This is just the start. Higher capacity in water so that we can service the South. There's more that needs to get done. And the administration, Congress is listening to what needs to be done. Understand that the Navy wanted to sell us water at a higher rate as well, but that fought back. We fought back. I spoke to the folks at the Pentagon as well and said, that's no. That word got through, and the PUAG authority also said that we're not going to have that, and that has been reversed. So we're moving forward on that to ensure that our rates of utilities, especially the water, especially the grants that we provide for the source of water for Guam, is taken care of through grants that I will continue to fight for in the 119th Congress. Thank you.
Candidate Cruz.
Thank you. There's a lot of things that we need to get the federal government to really ante up on. For example, PFAS contamination. We know that is a serious concern for the people of Guam. I grew up always believing our water was safe, and it turns out it wasn't. And a lot of that is because of contamination that was caused because of the military presence on Guam. We need the federal government to stand up. They need to go beyond what they've been doing. Because, you know, there's things like the land use on Guam, where almost a third of our land is used by the military. And do you know how much they give the government of Guam in exchange for the taxes that we lose because of that? $2,800. Do you know how much they give to people like Wyoming? $38 million. So don't tell us that our land is only worth $2,800. We need the help for our water system. We need them to be able to put in the infrastructure because we're all sharing the water, and those military bases need it as much as us, and they need to help us more with our infrastructure.
Congressman Moylan, your follow-up?
Infrastructure is important. We have good communications with my members of Congress and the House of Armed Services to continue to strengthen that. This is a one-island approach that we're working together. We have one source of water, one source of power, one main road. We've increased also the federal funding for $147 million for our infrastructure to harden our roads, to repair our roads. We increased the funding for the Port Authority by $30 million to upgrade our Port Authority as well. We'll continue to do that as too.
All right. Candidate Cruz, labor shortages remain a pressing concern. How will you attract and retain skilled workers to support development both inside and outside the fence?
So that's a good question. There's two parts to that. The first part is when we train workforces to do these great jobs, or when we have our kids go through school and they're our best and brightest, if there are not the good paying jobs available for them, they're going to leave our island, and they will be replaced by H-2 workers or contract workers. We have to look at this holistically because we've got to create good paying jobs to retain the talent. Think of how many people that you know whose kids, whose grandkids have left the island because they haven't found that good paying job. We can't always be replacing it with H-2 workers. As far as the workers goes, instead of patchworking every time in every NDAA, let's add an amendment to get the H-2 workers put on there. We need a comprehensive relook of the entire immigration system for the island of Guam. It needs to include Philippine visa waiver, H-2 workers, also getting medical professionals like doctors and nurses where we need them to come to our island. There needs to be a comprehensive approach, and from day one, that is something that I am going to do.
Congressman Moylan.
When we started, we were at a one-year time zone to lose the H-2B workers were definitely needed to complete our project. Now we extended that to 5 years through the help of my congressional members that believe in us and believe in Guam. Next, we're going to expand that to 10 years. In addition to expanding that, we're going to include the importance of adding skilled nurses too. That's the short-term goal. The long-term goal is to train our folks here on Guam to take over eventually. Right now, it is important that we get the workers, and that's where they're coming from. The long-term goal is to make sure that our students, our kids, our young adults have the ability to learn and take these classes. In addition, we're going to have storms that will continue to come. We cannot have the island without proper workers in place. That's why the H-2B is important for now, to build our businesses back and also to build the homes that we desperately need. This is what we're doing now. Long-term goal is to support our kids through education, and that's why I want to be coming back in the 119th Congress.
All right. Candidate Cruz, your follow-up.
The reality is that we do not have H-2 workers working outside the fence, and that is because the military is attracting them all inside the fence. It's a lot easier. They make higher Davis-Bacon wages than they do outside the fence. And as a result, our community is suffering. Our businesses are not able to develop where they need H-2 labor. So we've got to figure out how to come up with a solution beyond just the Band-Aids of H-2 workers for the military every couple of years. We need a new solution.
Congressman Moylan, what are your plans to improve the education system in Guam, particularly in terms of federal funding and resources for public schools?
Federal funding is important, especially now. I just went through a graduation at the workforce that Bert Johnson runs for the Trades Academy. They are bursting at the seams for workers, and we just graduated 50 this month. We will continue to do so. Federal funding is necessary. We're paying vets to go there as well. And we will continue to support that because right out of school, they got jobs that are a great demand, both inside and outside the fence. The ability to start their own small business is very important. Their ability to get a job right away is very important. Skilled labor is what we need now. Young or old, high school graduate, college graduate, I've seen folks in there that even were that are still firemen getting a secondary degree in order to be an electrician. So we continue to do that. We continue to provide grants, and wherever we can, to the University of Guam for nurses, we will continue to support that. The power of the Congress makes things move fast, and that's what I want to do.
Candidate Cruz.
So it's interesting to see how my opponent diverted that question to talk about workforce development, because the real problem that we have is the Department of Education. Let's all be real. And there's two problems that we have at the Department of Education right now that are because of the federal government. Number one, he lost Compact Impact, and that is money that was needed to pay for some of those leases. And number two, we also have issues with DODEA schools, which continue to be better resourced than the schools that we have on this island. And so we need to address that with the U.S. military, because they cannot be funding much better schools behind the fence and then leaving our kids to suffer outside the fence. That has to be addressed. In addition to that, we need to also find ways to get more resources, and you know what? It's procurement and it's grants. So I have a plan within my platform, you can read it on gingercruz.com, where I plan to address fixing the broken procurement system so we can actually help, through federal resources, help the Department of Education to meet its obligation to our kids. Thank you.
Congressman Moylan, your follow-up?
Compact Impact was lost in the 117th Congress. The grant was lost then, not in the 118th. The governor and I got together and we fought for that. We had a congressional hearing at Hilton Hotel. The governor spoke out about that to get that back. We went back to Washington, D.C., and the governor came out again before the House of Representatives, and we fought for that as well, to get Compact Impact Grant back to. The Biden administration ended that. It wasn't fought for in the 117th Congress, and that's where we are today, and we will continue to fight.
Well, we're going to take a quick break. We have more candidates, more questions for the candidates in a moment.
So why are you supporting Ginger?
Because I love Ginger, everything about Ginger, just everything. Well, I think Ginger is very honest and transparent, and that's what really counts.
I support her and I believe in her because she's here with a plan and she's here to bring us change, and that's something the young people are here for.
I know she can take care of us here in Guam.
I trust Miss Ginger to be a new Congressman of Guam.
I trust Ginger because I like her platform. We give her the support so she can make it into Congress.
I believe in Ginger because I see that she is very passionate, she's competent, she has empathy, and she knows how to do the job and do it well. And I believe our people deserve better, and that person for Congress is Ginger Cruz.
I'm Ginger Cruz. I approve this message, and I humbly ask for your vote.
I'm Sabrina Salas-Matanani, and I'm running for senator for the thousands of you who are frustrated with the current legislature and want change. Some people have become senators and spend their time running for higher office. I will serve you faithfully as a senator, period. I will work hard to ensure that our lawmakers are working for you and not fighting against each other. I'm ready to bring it.
I'm Sabrina Salas-Matanani, and I approve this message.
Day and mabuhay. I'm Mary Ann Suyang Lujan, Vice Mayor of Gumbal, Iloilo, Philippines. My husband, Senator Jesse Lujan, is running for re-election as your senator. Senator Jesse fights to reduce inflation, improve healthcare and education, rebuild tourism, and combat crimes. Please vote for Senator Jesse Lujan. Si Jules Maase, thank you very much.
I'm Jesse Lujan, and I approve this message.
Afade, Guam. My name is Congresswoman Amata Rattawagan. I'm the congressional representative from American Samoa and a proud graduate of the University of Guam. I support James Moylan and encourage you to please send him back to Congress. In a short time, Jim has built a positive image for Guam and has secured many wins for you. He's also a great team player when it comes to working with territorial representatives. As a 10-year member of Congress, I must also emphasize the importance of continuity, which is even more important for territories. Building relationships and educating members on your district's unique needs takes time. You can't keep changing leadership every 2 years, as it'll set you back. Guam is in good hands with Congressman James Moylan, and once again, I encourage you to please send him back to Congress so he can continue the work. Thank you. Sisus Maasi.
All right, welcome back to your KUAM News 2024 Congressional Debate. Let's get to it. And for this one, we'll start with Candidate Cruz. What more can be done to benefit Guam after the recent renewal of COFA?
So we need to do a complete relook at that because there are billions of dollars that are owed to the people of Guam because of all of the goods and services that were provided through the years in law enforcement, at the Department of Corrections, education, and in our healthcare system. So the first thing is data, right? I really believe in data. One of the ways that we can get that money back from the federal government is if we get a think tank or we get the General Government Accountability Office or if we have the Congressional Budget Office to to assist in putting together an analysis that really locks down what the impact is for Guam. And then we need to find creative ways that we can get that covered by the federal government. And it's not so much looking backwards, it's looking forwards, because this is an ongoing issue for us. And we want to have enough Malik and welcome our freely associated states brothers and sisters, but at the same time, it cannot be at the detriment of the whole island. So data is one way to do it, and then we need to submit requests so that we can get the funding necessary to take care of everybody on our island.
Congressman Moylan.
The new plan that replaces the COFA grant incorporates giving the free associated states immediate funding and services instead of waiting. This takes the burden out of the government of Guam for providing that cost. This is tremendous savings for the government of Guam, where we can put, through the administration's requirements, through the legislature, focus on the agencies that are important, that need this funding. This is how we are helping the island, and this is how we will continue to help the island. The administration's focus on which they want to focus on, whether it be Department of Education, whether it be healthcare, whether it be public safety, is how they can use these additional funds that are no longer necessary because the federal government is paying for the free associated states Medicare, Medicaid programs, all the services necessary that need to come right away. Thank you.
Candidate Cruz, your follow-up?
Sounds to me like he's not going to fight for what we need on this island. We need to fight. We need to get that money back. And then as far as CFA goes, I'd like to ask everybody out there, if you're able to, go to my website, gingercruz.com. There's a tab called Truth. Hit it, you roll it down, and there's a video on there that explains CFA. CFA does not cover the shortfalls at the Department of Corrections or for our police officers or for our schools. There is a shortfall. We need to fight for it, and we need to never stop until we get that for the people of Guam. Thank you.
Congressman Moylan, we'll begin with you for this question. What specific concrete plans do you have to combat the fentanyl crisis before it worsens on the island?
There are two things. First is something called the fast response cutters, okay? And that's with the Coast Guards. Our borders need to be secured. We increased the fast response cutters by additional 3. That's really important to protect our island, Mariana Islands, and the free associated states as well. Second, we were also looking at federalizing or a study for the Customs, Guam Customs Authority, for a study to determine if by providing them with more fundings, they can correct our borders and protect our borders as well through the help of federal assistance. It's just a study. We also have additional funding, $2 million coming for additional patrol cars for the Guam Police Department. We also have $7 million coming for the Guam Customs for X-ray machines that are desperately needed at our intake at the Airport Authority, which now are not working. And because we did that, we can better protect our island from drugs.
Candidate Cruz.
Thank you very much. Well, the first thing we need to do, the federal government is in charge of the U.S. Postal Service. And did you know that the majority of fentanyl that comes into our island comes in on domestic mail through our U.S. Postal Service? There is technology that will stop that. We absolutely have to get the federal government to stand up. The second thing is his idea to federalize customs. Do you realize that if we federalize customs, if there's U.S. Customs instead of Guam Customs checking all those containers coming in, they do not check domestic imported items. And that is where 90% of the drugs are coming in. Instead, they're only going to check the international. The Guam Customs, even though they need more resources, Guam Customs does check both domestic and international. So we are actually better off. What they need is they need more support. We do not need to federalize our customs. We need to support our customs officers and the Guam Customs Agency with more resources. Thank you.
Congressman Moylan, your follow-up?
Thank you. The federalization of Customs Authority is a study. It's not to say I'm in favor or that I deny it. The study is to determine what are the benefits are. It may not be a good idea, But until we have a study, we don't know that. If it's a good idea, the administration would decide if that's something we want to do. It's just a study. Also, we have an X-ray scanner ability down at the port. Just because we know the drugs are coming in through the airport, that's one thing, through the post office. The other thing is we're not correcting and scanning the amount that is coming in through the ports, and that's unknown, and we have funding for that.
Thank you for that response. Candidate Cruz, how do we address recent reports of Chinese nationals entering Guam through the CNMI by boat?
So technology is one of the ways we can do that, right? Because right now the federal government is not going to put a lot more resources into protecting those borders. And the thing that I always say is if the federal government is in charge of our immigration, which they are, 100%, then it is the federal government that needs to be 100% responsible for putting the necessary resources to protect our borders. And I find it really ironic that in a Congress that right now is just seized with all of the things that are happening because of the immigration of illegals across our borders, that they have not put more resources here into Guam. And in fact, there was a point in time where my opponent actually stood at the Arizona border against illegal immigration coming up from Mexico against a bill that would have provided funding for the Indo-Pacific region and the people of Guam. So instead of standing up with the people for Arizona, we need to stand up for the people of Guam. We need to make sure that there's funding and technology that puts in place the protections for our island, but it needs to be funded by the federal government.
Congressman Moylan, your rebuttal.
I visited the southern border because that's important to the nation. Our lessons learned at the southern border were our lessons learned for the island of Guam too. Getting support from my Congress members in those areas is support for Guam. They are supporting us for more funding for our protection here on Guam as well. We are working with the Guam's Coast Guard Authority. We provided them 3 more fast response cutters. This is an important need to have the resources what they need to require to include in our Indo-PACOM area the free associated states. These additional resources are a must. We are providing the resources, we have provided the resources, and we will continue to provide the resources because of the relationship I have with my colleagues in the 118th Congress, and I will continue bipartisan with those I built on the southern border as well, and that's why you need me back in the 119th Congress.
Thank you, Congressman. Candidate Cruz, your follow-up response?
So my follow-up response is I am going to represent the people of Guam, period, full stop. I am not going to represent the people in Arizona. And you know what? As for all of those folks that were supporting, excuse me? Oh, and as for all of those folks that were supporting those issues at the border, we need to recognize that Guam is the group that we are, or Guam is who we are supporting when we are in Congress. And at the same time, those folks that he's saying would stand up for Guam have not stood up for Guam. They've not helped him with RICA. They've not helped him with Compact Impact. They've not helped Guam. So much for trying to make friends with people that are not actually helping Guam.
Thank you, Candidate Cruz. Congressman Moylan. Our schools locally were recently hit by violent threats, and nationally this year, there have been multiple mass shootings. What solutions do you have to curb this problem and keep our children safe?
The Guam Police Department is in great need of vehicles. There's no denying that. You can see the vehicles and the conditions there are, and they're constantly in use. There's no denying that as well. They need the resources too. We, in this National Defense Authorization Act, included $2 million for roughly 20 vehicles. We also have grants for them to get their mobile command posts, which they asked for, which we got them as well. Their needs are reflected in my responses and my requests to the House Armed Services Committee through attachments on amendments which weren't in there before, and if we didn't ask for it, they won't be in there now, and that's the importance to make your voice heard. And this is how we can help fund our police force to provide the services they need to continue support, whether it be the Department of Education, whether it be our road safeties, whether it be the streets and the parks as well. They need the resources. I'm there to provide it for them.
Thank you, Congressman. Candidate Cruz, your rebuttal.
So why is it every time men think about a problem, they want to go out and buy toys and cars and things? I will tell you what we need to do to make our schools more safe. The most important thing we can do is fight really hard for child care for our families. Because when we raise good citizens, when our kids are cared for, when we can go to work and we don't have to worry that our kids are wandering on the internet and finding things that are going to make them violent or playing games or getting influenced by all of the things that are out there, when they are well cared for through child care programs that are fully resourced, not only do we have better children, we have a better society. And that is part of being a woman, because I understand that. I have a grandson, and I know when we raise better children, then we don't have to worry about one of them deciding that they're going to go replicate something that they saw online because nobody's paying attention, and they're going to think it's funny to bring a gun to school and possibly hurt other children. We cannot have this happen on Guam. This is not the way we were before, and we can't be like that now. We have to help our children.
Thank you, Candidate Cruz. Congressman, your follow-up response?
After being in the Army for quite some years, I decided to join the parole office at Department of Corrections. There I worked for 7 years to understand the system. I went from dealing with parents who were my parolees to their kids who were my parolees as well. I know the importance as being a parole officer, the amount of cases that we had to work with. That's why resources are important for us to ensure that we can do our job to keep the island of Guam safe. My experience allows me to figure that out. So thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Candidate Cruz, what steps will you take to advocate for greater self-determination and political status for Guam?
Well, the first thing we need to understand is political status is something that will be decided by the people of Guam, and our job in Congress is to support that. So full support for all of the efforts that are ongoing in terms of education, in terms of holding a vote, in terms of promoting self-determination. But something I think is really important is we don't need to pretend like we have to wait for something to happen, because our unincorporated territory status is not defined, and we can redefine it. And a huge part of my platform is being able to use our unique status to get more for the people of Guam. If the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas can have negotiations, there's no reason on earth why we can't introduce measures in the U.S. Congress to also give Guam negotiation status. There's nothing saying that we can't do it. It's about the art of the possible. It's about being creative with public policy. It is about opening new opportunities for the people of Guam to have our voices heard and to come up with new solutions while the local people on Guam are deciding what we need to do to promote self-determination. Thank you very much.
Congressman Moylan.
Let's get it done today. Let's get it done as soon as possible. The island of Guam needs to make the decision through a plebiscite of a vote of the people, a majority vote of the people. My job as a member of Congress is to provide funding for that education process to begin, to determine which is the best choice for the island of Guam, selected by the people of Guam through a plebiscite. Get it going now. It's up to the administration to get things going, and I'm prepared and I'm ready to provide that finances that are necessary to make that happen. We've waited too long. This is the situation we're in now. It's probably over 20 plus years since the last decision was made. Why are we waiting? I'm not sure. I can't push my own decision, but the people of Guam should push their own decision, and it has to start there. And that's what I want to see happen. I will provide the funding through the federal government to make that happen so we can have a proper education system for the people of Guam to make a right decision on a plebiscite that I will fight for in Congress.
Thank you, Congressman. Candidate Cruz, your follow-up.
So one of the tough questions that also comes to bear in this is this question about the Karen who complained about Guam and said you can't have a vote with just the indigenous population. And one of the ways that we could look to overcome that is possibly by finding a way that we could actually make it through Congress with whatever decision the people of Guam make by expanding the opportunity to vote, expanding it to Chamorro expats who are living all over the United States right now, who care about the future of our island and who've left our island, but who still have a vested interest to see those things happen.
Congressman Moylan, this next question will start with you. How will you advocate for the island's needs in Congress where you do not have the voting power?
That's why it's important to have friends in Congress. That's why you support their needs so they can support your needs. You only care about how much you know unless they know how much you care. There's a tally that comes up once a year, and I was voted top 30%, top 30 actually, out of 430 plus members of Congress. That shows my bipartisan work that I did across the floor to support my fellow members of Congress to gain their trust in me and also believe in what they need to do for our nation. Because this is where our men and women come from the military as well. When they come to serve in the United States, they may be in our Indo-CACOM area. I need to support their hometown just as much as they need to support the island of Guam. This bipartisan agreement, this shared responsibility, this trust would only build by the length of time that you are in Congress. And that's why I want to come back in the 119th.
Thank you, Congressman. Candidate Cruz, how will you advocate for the island's needs in a Congress where you do not have voting power?
So I actually have long-standing friendships with several members of the Senate of all places, and that's one of the areas where Guam does not have representation. I have lifelong friends. Some of them I've known for over 20 years, and these are people that not only care about me, but they care about the policies. They care about Guam because I care about Guam. I met them in Chicago, and we once again rekindled their support for the people of Guam. And the other thing that I will tell you is I am very good not only making friends with people, but convincing them of what the people of Guam need. I had 1 week in Chicago, and I met with all of the members, from the ranking members of all of the committees that were in Congress, and we talked about Guam's issues. And every single one of them that I spoke to was committed to helping the people of Guam. I have been very bipartisan. I always have been, and I will continue to be. But when it comes to people in Congress that are friends of mine, I have friends, and I will make more.
Congressman Moylan, your follow-up.
Senate is important, and I too have friends in Senate. Recently, we had a press conference in the Capitol regarding RICA. RICA is not dead. The Senate is behind us. We're working closely with us, and my bipartisan relationship with Senator Teresa from New Mexico as well, where I'm the co-lead on the Republican measure to ensure that RICA is passed in the 118th Congress. This is important. That's why you also need friends in Senate, which I have.
Thank you, Congressman. Candidate Cruz, what role should Guam play in the larger developments of AI and technology in the region?
So right now, Guam has so many undersea cables that are crisscrossing our island, and we need to really leverage that into good paying technology jobs for our young people. You know, a lot of people are telling me, oh, our kids don't want to work, they don't want to go work at a ship repair facility or something, but they're always on their phones or they're always on their computers. Well, you know what? Those are the types of jobs that we need to create, good paying jobs for our kids. We need to work with the Department of Defense to expand the types of training that we have for the defense industrial base for those high-tech jobs. We need to leverage the fact that those undersea cables come through Guam, and most importantly, we need to make sure that we get more federal support for our power system so that we can have clean power, and we also need to put those lines underground. And that's something my opponent has not pushed. We need to get those lines underground because there are no technology companies that are going to put some AI center here on Guam if they don't have a darn solid knowledge that they're going to have power no matter whether there's a typhoon or not. So we have to make our environment conducive to them coming to Guam.
Thank you, Candidate Cruz. Congressman Moylan, what role should Guam play in the larger developments of AI and technology in the region?
Again, it goes back to the infrastructure and making sure our power and utilities are solid. There are many other industries that would like to come to Guam, but until that is done, it makes it very difficult. That's why we are investing in this development. Whether it be clean energy or other energies down the line, we will support this as well. The military knows that too, and in the 35th and 36th Guam legislature, when I was part of that, we also demanded that these cables come with a price to the government of Guam. Next, it's how does that develop further? This is helpful for the island. Our power underground as well. FEMA is also instructed and has agreed to Zero additional payment coming from Guam. They will pay for the upgrades and the increase instead of it building it back the way it was, make it better than it was ever before. This is important to the nation. This is important to the people of Guam. This is why I want to move this forward and will continue to move forward with the one island concept, working for the betterment of our community.
Thank you, Congressman. Candidate Cruz, your follow-up?
So one of the things I was working on from my industry role, because I was not an elected official prior to this, was to get the sea drone industry moving. That is one of those technological areas where Guam can really expand and provide good paying jobs, working not only in support of the military, but in support of research and development in so many other areas. The University of Guam is working on opportunities to train folks, and we've got the capability to bring that to Guam and not only leverage military contracts, but also help with climate studies and underwater studies. So we need to do more in that area as well.
Thank you, Candidate Cruz. Congressman Moylan, what resources would you advocate for to prevent areas like the hospital, telecoms, and even the election from being hit by cyber attacks?
We've had our experience with cyber attacks, and we learned from that as well. The government of Guam has their cyber attack blockage, or their agency that takes care of that for many of the agencies in Guam. It's a matter of upgrading that. Funding's available for that as well. Grants are available for that as well. The military understands that that's how, if there is more aggression coming from the Chinese Communist Party onto the island, they're going to attack first with cyber attacks. We know this. We are planning for it. We are planning for the additional requirements and money resources that are necessary to do it. It's no surprise. We are prepared for this. The government of Guam is prepared for this. It's the funding that I'm responsible for, with the support of my colleagues in the 118th administration, to ensure what is needed for the island of Guam, what is needed for the nation, is done to prevent these cyber attacks happening on Guam. We need to protect the homeland. We need to protect the people of Guam. And this is how we're going to do it, with our relationship, with me being in the House of Armed Services, and moving forward for our island's protection.
Thank you, Congressman. Candidate Cruz, your rebuttal.
So we do need to do all of those things, but I'll tell you who is going to be hurt in this push to get all of these cyber attacks fended off. It's going to be Guam's small businesses, because the Department of Defense right now is upgrading dramatically the requirements on every single business that is doing work up on that military base, and that is going to fall disproportionately on Guam's small businesses. We need to increase the financial support for Guam businesses to be able to meet the higher threshold, because it is incredibly expensive to be able to put in place the cybersecurity needed. And that is one of the areas that's not really being thought of. We need to help our small businesses, because we need to have a piece of this pie. It can't just be off-island companies. And I'll tell you right now, 99% of the work that is being done to do all of the cybersecurity work on base is being done by companies that are coming to us from the mainland. We need those jobs. We need that opportunity for our people and our companies here on Guam. And that is something that I am going to focus on.
Thank you, Candidate Cruz. Congressman Moylan, your follow-up.
All important for us to do. It needs to happen. We're in the right place to make it happen. I want to see it happen, and it can be done. Small business need additional funding. There are grants for that. And we assist. We assist many agencies of this government in getting their grants. Even nonprofit groups have grants that were awarded with the assistance of this congressional office, by just simply writing a letter in support, expressing the importance of what they must do. And I will continue to do that as well.
Thank you, Congressman Moylan. Candidate Cruz, the reality is that many have chosen to live elsewhere and have been essentially priced out of paradise. What initiatives would you back to allow them the ability to stay here?
So the first thing that we need to do for housing, which is the primary issue, is we need to get more federal assistance for infrastructure. That is something that we absolutely cannot afford on our own. You know, they're trying to build 400 homes to be able to create more affordable housing on our island, and it's going to cost over $55 million just to put in the sewer. Imagine that. Even if you spread it out over 30 years, there's going to be no way that that can be built into the price of those homes. So we need to get the federal assistance to improve our infrastructure. The second thing we need to do is ensure that we get a piece of the federal pie that ensures that any sort of support for first-time home buyers comes to the people of Guam, especially since we have a 60% higher rate of cost of living and we have a higher rate of poverty on this island. And then the third thing we need to do is we need more federal incentives to bring investment to our island, because a big part of the problem was we just don't have enough affordable housing, and we can't have that done unless we get investment in Guam. We don't have the funding to do it. Public-private partnerships will come here, but the federal government can help make it happen.
Thank you, Candidate Cruz. Congressman Moylan, your rebuttal.
Housing is tight, and it's going to get tighter. Our workforce is focused inside the fence. We're getting H-2B workers that got extended for another 5 years, which I'll make to 10. But we need that workforce to be included on the outside, because there's going to be another storm and more housing shortage as well. We also provided additional funding for the military, up to $400 million in addition, to provide more housing on base. But that's still not enough. I'm working to allow the H-2B workers to work outside, to build our businesses after the next storm, to build our homes that our families most desperately need, to create larger in supply than versus larger in demand. This can be done. I did it by increasing the workforce of H-2B workers for the federal government. We can justify that for the people of Guam as well, because this is a one island approach, and it cannot work unless we take care of the people of Guam, to bring back our residents of Guam as well. And this is how it's going to happen.
Thank you, Congressman. Candidate Cruz, your follow-up.
We need to negotiate with the military, and we've got to bring down that monthly rate, because that is what is driving up the rates for the people of Guam, and we can do that. I've actually spoken to folks who understand that the military can do that. And the second thing that we need to do is we need to have the military, for every contract that they give, if the contractors cannot find housing inside the fence, which they won't be able to, there needs to be a financial allotment for every single one that he needs to live outside the fence, and that money needs to go into a fund that will help Guam homeowners afford their first home. There has to be that balance.
Thank you, candidates, for your responses this round. We're going to take another quick break. More questions for your delegate candidates in a moment.
I'm Tony Anna. I passed a castle doctrine and home invasion law to protect Guam's families. So like you, it angers me when I see these career criminals smiling in their mugshots, because they're more protected than the victims. No more. I will introduce the Take Charge Act to take away the keys from these violent offenders and keep drugs off our streets. But I need your vote. Please remember me, Tony Ada, number 2 on the ballot. Sa Diyos Maasi, maraming salamat po, and thank you.
She's solid. She's substantive, she's well-informed, and she will make good decisions.
To work for the people of Guam, to improve the situation for individuals, working families, and the people of Guam. So please
vote for Sabrina Salas Matanani for Senator.
I humbly ask for your support.
And vote for Sabrina Salas Matanani.
I'm Sabrina Salas Matanani, and I humbly ask for your vote.
I'm Sabrina Salas Matanani, and I approve this message.
All right, so I'm here with Kirsten Gillibrand, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand from New York. We used to work together in HUD, and I've known Ginger for a long time. I followed your career, all your foreign policy expertise, all your war work, actually. I think it's amazing you're running for Congress, and I'm excited to serve with you in Washington. Our job is to serve you. Our job is to help people. Ginger is built for this job. She's going to make an amazing member of Congress. We can't wait to serve with you. Thank you for running.
I'm Ginger Cruz for Congress, and I approve this message.
Hafaday, I'm Senator Jesse Anderson Lujan, and I'm running for re-election to keep improving life on Guam. We need to rebuild tourism, build a new hospital, improve public schools, reduce inflation, and fight crime. There is so much to do, and I need your support to continue this work. I humbly ask for your support and vote for this election. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po, and sa Diyos Maasi. I'm Jesse Lujan, and I approve this message.
Your vote shapes our future. Your vote is your voice. Vote period.
There is a new horizon. There is a new hope. Guam, you deserve better and more. Shelley Calvo, she cares for you all. Shelley Calvo, she cares and does more. Shelley Calvo, for everyone. Shelley cares for Guam.
I'm Shelley Calvo, number 3, Republican, and I approve this message.
All right, now to the town hall portion of the debate. The rules to respond are the same. Let's get to the community questions right now. First up, for the legal community, the Guam Bar Association.
Afternoon to the candidates and you too, Nick. My name's John Morrison. I'm from the Guam Bar Association. I have a question about nominations for federal judicial positions. Members of Congress have traditionally held a huge influence over the nomination process. Essentially, recommendations are made to the president, and the president considers those for nomination. I'm wondering what values you would look for in people that are going to fill these critical roles, such as federal district court, U.S. Marshal, U.S. Attorney for the district. That's the easy part of the question. The more complicated part of the question is if we look at what's actually happened here on Guam. In 2018, Sean Anderson was nominated and appointed to be U.S. Attorney for the island and the CNMI. And he's been in that position since the Trump era. In 2021, the governor made a recommendation to the president to appoint a Guam-born California judge, and that nomination didn't take effect until 2023. That gentleman's still not in the position. So I'm wondering what you would do to make that process move smoother, and what role you would think that you would fill in making those recommendations to the president.
Well, we'll start with Congressman Moylan for that question.
John, thank you for the question. And I have experience in the question that you're asking me. Nominations have come before us, and we have made recommendations as well. We also listen to the public on how they feel too, and then we proceeded from there. However, the length of time is a good question, and those that were nominated are also wondering what's taking so darn long. But that decision is made up in the White House. That's not our decision. But we do our job in submitting a nomination to make it happen, because we want this to be permanent, whether it be the attorney's position or the judge's position too. We won't hold it there. We move it as fast as possible after listening to the public, as listening to you folks in the Guam Bar Association and different folks' opinions too, before making a proper recommendation. And then it's up to the president to decide. When they're ready, I don't know. But we'll continue to follow up. Thank you for the question.
Ginger Cruz.
Thank you for the question. So I think that really goes to one of the key planks in my platform, and that is the fact that as an unincorporated territory, we don't really have a lot of influence in the Congress. And so one of the things that we can do, and that I would like to pursue, is moving Guam out from under the Department of Interior and putting Guam's oversight at the Executive Office of the President. And what that would do is it would allow Guam to have more of a dialogue with the Executive Office of the President and ensure that things that were critically important to us could get channeled to the EOP, who then has a really easy time going down to the Department of Justice and being able to move these things in a much more expeditious fashion. You know, we're never going to get the right to vote for president because it's going to be way too difficult to get a constitutional amendment. But that doesn't mean that we can't get the attention of the president. Right now is the time to do it. We have to strike while the iron is hot and while we are critically important. And if we do that, we could be able to get more influence, and I would seek to be able to do that. Thank you.
Congressman Moylan, your follow-up?
Certainly. I have a different aspect on that. I think the Department of Interior is the right place for this to happen. Removing it from the Department of Interior and putting it under the president removes the authority to hear the people's voice. The House of Representatives represents the people. You don't have an oversight against the President of the United States, but we do have oversight over the Department of Interior. These are separate branches of government, and it's important, and that's why the House is there. It's the people's voice over the Department of Interior. Thank you.
All right, for our next organization, for our military veterans, here's Got Your 671.
Good evening, candidates. My name is Roy Gamboa, United States Marine Corps veteran and president of Got Your 671. Question is, in May of this year, the United States Government Accountability Office published their findings of a study that determined the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, quote, uses a model to estimate the size of the veteran population in Guam and the territories. The Government Accountability Office made 6 recommendations, 5 of which are directed to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Based on these recommendations, what can you do and what are your solutions to ensure that those recommendations are expedited and effectively that all veterans in the territory of Guam are accounted for?
For that, we'll start with candidate Cruz.
Thank you. But first, let me just make a really quick comment. The White House is not its own branch of government, and there is oversight by the Congress. So let me get to your question. So the GAO report. So there is this thing that they have decided to look at the type of data. And they have clearly said in the GAO that the data that is collected by the Veterans Administration is not factual. There is a false way that they are calculating the number of veterans on our island. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to look at the correct way to do that. An easy way to do that is take DD-214s, take state IDs, which have residency, you cross-reference the two, it's 2024, there's databases, and you find out once and for all how many veterans there really are on Guam. And then the second thing that you do is there is no magic number. What that will do is that will help drive the request that I will absolutely make and push to ensure that those veterans are served with a regional hub for both benefits and medical care here on Guam for the whole region.
Thank you, candidate Cruz. Congressman Moylan.
Thank you. That's important, but also important is the amount of veterans on Guam that register with the CBOT. We can bring those numbers higher, yes, but it's like medical insurance. You still have to enroll for it to show so we can grow. But there's another solution that we did with the continuing resolution that I pushed to have. That's the Department of Defense and the Department of Veterans Affairs currently have an agreement where we share facility. A shared facility is important by using Department of Defense land for the benefit of the Department of Veterans Affairs at the same time for the Department of Defense. There's a study proposed that the Department of Defense and Department of Veterans Affairs take care of so we can get a regional medical center here on Guam to work for both communities, Department of Defense and Department of Veterans Affairs, no matter what our numbers are. We need to get this done.
Thank you, Congressman Moylan. Candidate Cruz, your follow-up.
I'm glad he agrees with me on getting a regional center here because that is exactly what we need. And I'll tell you what, those MOUs between the Department of Defense and the Department of Veterans Affairs, that's been done since 1992. I used to work on that when I was working for the Gutierrez-Bordallo administration, where we had agreements between Naval Hospital and the local government. So that can be done, but we need to increase our request. We need to make sure that enough of this sending people to Honolulu, just the airfare alone is millions of dollars that can be used to service our veterans right here on Guam.
Thank you, candidates. Now to our next organization for our housing market, the Guam Association of Realtors.
Hafaday. My name is Joanne Agun-Ige from the Guam Association of Realtors, the Government Affairs Committee. Our question is, if elected or re-elected, what 3 priorities, new for Congressman Moylan, will you advocate for within your first 100 days as Guam's congressional representative?
All right, Congressman Moylan.
Thank you for the question, and yes, housing is important and demand will continue as well as the buildup comes in. 2 things we're doing now and will continue to do when I'm reelected as well. We've added an additional $400 million for the military to build housing in base. In addition, increase the funding cap for Department of Defense to look at these dilapidated buildings, large apartments, old hotels as a possible source for housing for military, and purchasing that or leasing that to take the burden off the housing market on Guam. These things are moving forward and have to be done. Plus, the H-2B workers, as I explained earlier, are necessary to work on private jobs outside before the next storm hits and in order to reduce the demand on housing on outside. This we can accomplish with my help in the 119th Congress. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Moylan. Candidate Cruz.
Well, with respect to housing, again, I will reiterate, the first thing we need to do is we need to get the infrastructure. We can't get more housing built on Guam if we don't have the infrastructure to service it. That is the first thing we need to do. The second thing we need to do is we need to get public-private partnerships, because let's face it, we can't always be asking Uncle Sam to fund everything, because we've seen Uncle Sam does not have enough money to fund everything, and every time they say we don't have enough money, we can't be left high and dry. So we need to incentivize the private sector to get them to build more affordable housing here on Guam. We need to coordinate our federal efforts with the Guam Economic Development Authority, because they've got QC authority, and we need to create more incentives so that we can build more affordable housing on our island so it relieves that pressure. And in addition to that, again, on the H-2s, it's a nice thing to say, but the fact is there are not enough H-2s on the island right now working outside the fence, so we need to come up with alternate solutions and stop relying on Band-Aids. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Cruz. Congressman Moylan, your follow-up.
We need to allow the H-2B workers to work outside the fence, and more H-2B workers are coming as well, to about 10,000 H-2B workers. But the important part is that these workers are allowed to work outside the fence as well, to reduce the demand of housing that we have now by building more. Contractors need a workforce. They don't have it. This is what needs to be done. I was able to get the H-2B workers extended for another 5 years. I can do the same to have these H-2B workers work on the outside of the fence. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Moylan. Now to our next organization for the business community, the Guam Chamber of Commerce.
Huffaday. My name is Ernie Galito, Chamber of Commerce. I'm the chairman of the board. You two are doing great. Good thinking on your feet. Keep it up. As Guam faces economic challenges and opportunities, the outcome of the upcoming U.S. presidential election could significantly impact the island's future. If either former President Donald Trump or Vice President Kamala Harris wins the presidency, what do you estimate the economic outlook for Guam will be under their leadership? Additionally, can you provide your perspective on how their platforms, particularly key issues like federal funding, military strategy, and economic recovery, differ, and how might that affect Guam's future?
Candidate Cruz, we'll begin with you for that question.
Thank you. Impossible to answer that in 60 seconds. Thank you very much, Ernie Galito. So I will tell you, a lot of the answer is to be found at gingercruz.com, because I do have a whole plan and we discuss so many of those things. But what I will say really quickly is, it is important that if I win this election, that I be able to work with whoever the occupant of the White House is, whether it be Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, and I will make sure that I represent the people of Guam. And there's going to be pluses and minuses on both sides. I believe if Kamala Harris wins, I think there's a lot more opportunity to help the society on Guam, to improve our opportunities to get child care, to get $25,000 credits for housing for the people of Guam, things that we are really going to need. At the same time, if Donald Trump happens to win, I think he's very transactional, and I think there are things he's going to do in terms of military buildup which we could actually benefit from as well. So we always have to look at that silver lining. We have to work with whoever the occupant of the White House is, and we have to ensure that we are advocating for Guam's needs, but we have to understand where those intersect with their priorities and find those solutions. Thank you,
Candidate Cruz. Congressman Moylan, your rebuttal.
Let the people decide. And at the end is where I'm going to work together with them. Right now, we have a Democrat as president, and the House, which is controlled by Republicans, are working our best. The Senate is run by Democrats as well, in the 118th. And the House is working its best as a majority of Republicans. If we had a Republican president and hopefully a Republican Senate too, things could probably move smoother. Hopefully. We don't know. But either way it goes, I have proven that I can work across the board, as shown in my rating listing, on how I've done in registering about the top 30th of those who can work well with both sides of the fence, with both sides of the aisle as well. Republicans win, you have a Republican Congress that we hope to keep the House as well. Senators, if the Senate wins the House, the Senate as well, then again, from the House to the Senate to the presidency. Either way, it will work best. That's my promise to you, and that's what I've shown to have, so thus shown for the people of Guam as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Candidate Cruz, your follow-up.
So right now it is looking like the House is going to flip Democrat, and I am very optimistic if that happens that we can actually have a change, because a Democrat House is one that has always been more friendly for the people of Guam. They have always provided more financial resources for the people of Guam, and they have cared about the outcomes for the people of Guam. So I am hoping that is where we head. But in addition to that, on that rating of being bipartisan, what has it gotten us on Guam? A lot of the accomplishments that he cited so far are accomplishments of the Biden administration. Things that the agencies on Guam have applied for and that have been given to them by the federal government. So we need better work in that area.
Thank you, Candidate Cruz. Now to our next organization. Here's Equality Guam.
Buenas and Hafade Guahu Sirokin John Kichurchionko. I'm the program director at Equality Guam. In recent years, we've seen an uptick in homophobia and notably transphobia, both nationally and locally. Prolific miseducation and misrepresentation lead to bullying, abuse, and lack of supportive health care that contribute to higher rates of depression and people falling victim to suicide in our community. How would you address false narratives and serve as an ally to the LGBTQIA+ community in your term should you be elected? Sanamasi.
Congressman Moylan.
Thank you for the question. That's very important, how we care for one another. That's the First Amendment. I support the First Amendment. Race, color, religion, doesn't matter, right? Especially on Guam. This is our culture. We take care of elderly, if young, of male or female, whichever they decide. I will continue to support that and believe in the First Amendment right for the protection of all people on the island of Guam. We are a melting pot and a really good society, and that's why people come to Guam, because they are so welcome no matter what religion, no matter what race, no matter what gender. We can show that as the people of Guam that we are. We lead by example. We are Christian people that will work for the betterment of our island. We believe in one another, that we got each other's back, and I will continue to support all efforts to do that for the people of Guam.
Thank you, Congressman Moylan. Candidate Cruz, your rebuttal.
So the first thing, it really starts with leadership, and our leadership needs to make very, very clear that bullying of any type is not going to be tolerated. And one of the things that we can do is we can ensure that when there is bullying, when it does drive people to the point that they are considering suicide, that we make an example of the people who are perpetrating the bullying so that people know this is not accepted. Also, it goes back to childcare. It goes back to how we raise our children. We need better civic education in our schools. We need to raise people that understand the values and absolutely give every single opportunity for someone to live their life, to love who they want, and to do the things that create a functional, wonderful, thriving life for themselves without that judgment. And part of that is punishment against people who do things that endanger that community, and part of it is ensuring that there is a whole system that supports them and that ensures that they have a safe environment in which to live.
Thank you, Candidate Cruz. Congressman Moylan, your follow-up.
I think we both agree, if the First Amendment right is not followed, the person should be punished. That is uncalled for, and I would not stand for that as well. Anything that goes on like that in Guam should be taken seriously and not turned a blind eye to. We must protect everybody on our island. It's important for the people as we build a better community. If we are going to defend ourselves from evil, it's got to start by not having this kind of racism in our island of Guam especially. And that's what we're in control of. And that's what I want to provide.
Candidates, thank you for your responses. This is the first round of the town hall. We're going to take another quick break. This is your KUAM News 2024 Congressional Debate. Keep it here.
Half a day. I'm Jesri Sky Lujan. My dad, Senator Jesse Lujan, is running for re-election as senator. He is dedicated to serving the people of Guam. Please vote for my dad, Senator Jesse Lujan. Thank you. Si Juas Maasi. Maraming salamat po.
I'm Jesse Lujan, and I approve this message.
All right, so I'm here with Kirsten Gillibrand, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand from New York. We used to work together in HUD, and I've known Ginger for a long time. I followed your career, all your foreign policy expertise, all your war work, actually. I think it's amazing you're running for Congress, and I'm excited to serve with you in Washington. Our job is to serve you. Our job is to help people. Ginger is built for this job. She's going to make an amazing member of Congress. We can't wait to serve with you. Thank you for running.
I'm Ginger Cruz for Congress, and I approve this message.
Half a day. My name is Anthony Chargloff, Mayor of Inalahan. I'm reaching out to all my family and friends to please come out and vote. Help support Tony Ada for Senator. Tony Ada has helped Inalahan. He was a board member of the Menengo Memorial Foundation, and he, with the other board members, approved and helped build the Inalahan Memorial, in which Inalahan people are always going to be forever grateful. While Tony was in office, he had passed notable bills. Please come out and support Tony Ada for Senator.
I'm Tony Ada, and I approve this message.
Every year we face the same problems because we choose people that are nice rather than voting for leaders who are proven and offer solutions. Some of those nice senators have introduced bills that don't make us any safer or improve our quality of life. I'm Sabrina Salas-Matanani, and I'm not running for senator to be nice. I'm running to be effective and provide solutions for you.
I'm Sabrina Salas-Matanani, and I approve this message.
There is a new horizon. There is a new hope. Guam, you deserve better and more. Shelley Calvo, she cares for you all. Shelley Calvo, she cares and does more. Shelley Calvo, for everyone. Shelley cares.
I'm Shelley Calvo, number 3 Republican, and I approve this message.
Half a day. As a member of the House Armed Services Committee, it has been my top priority to ensure that you and your family are safe from adversaries like China and North Korea. I secured more funding for the Guam Missile Defense and additional authority for the Guam National Guard to protect our homeland. I wore the uniform, and I know the U.S. military is ready to defend our island if needed. Your safety and security is my top priority. I'm James Moylan, and I ask for your vote for Congress.
This is your KUAM News 2024 Congressional Debate. We continue with the town hall portion of the debate. Again, the rules to respond are the same. Let's get to the questions from our community for our Women in Business, the Women's Chamber of Commerce.
Sujus Masi to KUAM and to the candidates. Hafide, I'm Regine Bisco-Lee with the Guam Women's Chamber. Recognizing that deciding to have children is a major life choice for women, what are your thoughts on reproductive rights? If elected, outline the steps you will take to ensure access to comprehensive reproductive health care, including family planning services for women on Guam.
Candidate Cruz.
Thank you very much for that question. Well, women's reproductive rights is really the issue of this election, and we have to ensure that all of the troubles and problems that we are seeing evidenced all across our country today, with women who are having miscarriages, ending up dying because they're not able to get the health care that they deserve and need, we have to revisit this issue. Because leaving it with the states, by simply saying let's leave it with the states, or even worse, by the federal government intervening and trying to tell a doctor or a woman what they need to do in every single circumstance, is not something that is working out for our people. As a result, IVF is getting cut off for people that want to have families. So we need to make sure that as much as we can, that safe contraception is available to every single woman. We need to make sure that we leave the decision up to doctors, because God forbid that there is an accident somewhere out there on Marine Drive and some doctor is prevented from doing some kind of care to a woman who happens to be pregnant. That has to be protected and left with the doctors.
Thank you, Candidate Cruz. Congressman Moylan.
Regine, thank you for the question. That's very important. And that decision, of course, should be the decision necessary, made by the physician and the female. But what's more important to me is the ability to have the proper medical care on the island. Our hospital facility needs work. I've been to many births at the hospital as well, and the condition of the birthing room is very sad. It needs a lot of work, and that's why the hospital needs the attention, and that's why Medicare and Medicaid need to rebase the rates to pay the proper rates, and that's why Medicaid should have zero cap as well, and that's why we need more nurses, so whenever who comes into the hospital for whatever need they have can be taken care of properly, correctly, and by the right physician to get it done for the proper care of the lady. And that's what I want to do.
Thank you, Congressman. Candidate Cruz, your follow-up.
So I agree with those, but what we need to do is we need to fight for those things. And we should have been fighting for the last 2 years for those things. And one of those areas is we don't have enough OBGYNs on this island. We know that. So we have to come up with ways that we can have unique immigration status to be able to get and entice. Maybe we need more help from outside the island until we can have our own OBGYNs come back and practice on Guam. But we need to work on both immigration regulations and supporting state and national boards to be able to have those people practice on island, because we need OBGYNs.
Thank you, candidates. Now to our next organization for our environment, Micronesia Climate Change Alliance.
Buenas and half a day, Guahusi Maria Hernandez May, and I am co-director of Micronesia Climate Change Alliance. The question that I have today is, the U.S. Marine Live Fire Training Range Complex at Tailalu above Latexan calls for the firing of 6.7 million lead bullets annually over Guam's primary water source, the northern Guam Lens Aquifer, which supplies 85% of the island's drinking water. Water is a sacred resource, and there have been ongoing concerns about water contamination and access restrictions to original landowner families and the community due to military and commercial activities. U.S. EPA has identified lead contamination from military firing ranges as a significant concern. Additionally, the legislature today passed a resolution calling for stronger protections for Latexan and the original landowners. How will you protect Chamorro land rights and Guam's water resources and ensure that local communities have access to clean water and lands? How will you promote these issues in Congress? Situs Masi.
Congressman Moylan, questions begin with you.
Thank you, Maria, for your questions, and that is a great concern as well. The one island approach, with the military working with the government of Guam, with the military working with the people of Guam to protect our resources, is important. My conversations monthly I have with the Rear Admirals focuses on that as well. This would not be overlooked by our military running these facilities. They are here to work with the people of Guam and ensure that they meet the standards as required by the federal government as well. And we have oversight for the government of Guam to ensure that continues to happen. If that steps out of line, then it will be stopped. I will assure you of that, and I monitor that just as well. There are other federal agencies that are putting other requirements on us that we have to be concerned with as well, that does not interfere with our culture or our traditions of the Chamorro people of Guam, that I am working to ensure that we continue to make sure this is right for the people of Guam. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Moylan. Candidate Cruz.
Thank you very much. I will just say that lead contamination of our water is an absolute red line. That will not happen if I am in Congress, because we have to make sure that that water lens is not going to be contaminated. That is what we survive on, and more than that, that is the most precious resource that belongs to the people of Guam. It's a red line. It's not about one Guam. It's not about accommodating the military. We have to say that we will absolutely not accept lead contamination. And by the way, I don't think the military will either. But there is going to be money that they are going to have to put in there. And if it turns out that all of the environmental impact studies that they do finds that there is going to be any contamination, then we are going to have to find other technological ways to get those firing ranges. Maybe they need to do them virtually. There's a lot of other ways to do it. I mean, today in technology, how often do we have to rely on spreading lead bullets out over the land when you can use technology to accomplish the same kind of training outcomes for our military?
Thank you, Candidate Cruz. Congressman Moylan, your follow-up.
The building of Camp Lenin Blas on Guam is the first in the last 70 years that ever has there been one built before. The firing range is the highest technology that we have now in the nation. If this does not meet the requirements, then we will ensure that things need to stop. They have built this range to the highest top quality because it's a long-term investment into the island of Guam for protection, and it's a long-term investment with the people of Guam.
Thank you, candidates, for that response. Now to our final community representative, we have a question from our youth.
Buenas, candidates. My name is Devin Santos, and I'm representing the youth and young voters of Guam. My question for you today is, how will you work to ensure young people have access to jobs, training, and educational opportunities to prepare them for Guam's ever-changing economy and ensure them a safe financial future? Thank you.
Candidate Cruz.
Thank you very much. You know what? That is absolutely one of my top concerns. And it's not only having access to the training and to the opportunities, but it's also having the jobs on the other end. Because I'll tell you what, right now, the Guam Community College, the University of Guam, they are doing an incredible job training our young people. And you know what the problem is? I mean, look at our nurses. A lot of them, they're going through and they're soaring through these, but they don't want to take the scholarship. You know why? Because if they can't get the money that they need and they can make more money by going to the States, they're leaving our island. So one of the best things that I can do if I make it into Congress is really focus on creating new high-paying jobs for our young people. Because when the jobs are here, then the training will naturally come. Then the private sector will actually make opportunities available. There are ways in the Department of Defense that they can do that. I've already looked into it, and I am going to pursue those. They'll be part of my platform, and you can read about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Candidate Cruz. Congressman Moylan.
Thank you for the question. Now, we have more jobs than there are employees. I was at a restaurant down in a hotel here. They hire high school employees. They hire college employees just to work 30 hours a week, no matter how they can break it up during school time, to keep them so they can get insurance. Not enough people want to work. If you have the desire to work, there's jobs out there. If you need the training to work, there is training available out there too. There's the Trades Academy, there's GCC, there's many opportunities for our youth to get a skilled job, to even open their own business, because jobs are going to continue to flow with this buildup, and small businesses that are needed to provide the services for the buildup and for the people of Guam and the island of Guam. The opportunity is here today for the youth to get involved. Grants are available for the education. They will pay you to go to school if you so want to as well. So we will continue to that. Get me into the 119th Congress.
Thank you, Congressman Moylan. Candidate Cruz, your follow-up.
I still say that we don't have enough high-end jobs because we need to have the whole range of jobs. And let's just face it, tourism is not one of those. I mean, how many of our kids really aspire to work at McDonald's for their whole lives? Okay, that is great as a start. But they've got to be able to move up. They need to be able to afford the houses and afford the cost of living. And they can't do it on all those low-paying jobs. So the reason that those jobs are vacant is because it doesn't give them a living that they can live on. We have to look at better-paying jobs and better-paying opportunities for our people. There are no other industries, and we need to create them for the people of Guam.
Candidates, thank you so much for your responses to our community organizations and representatives. Your KUAM News 2024 Congressional debate continues in a moment.
There is a new horizon. There is a new hope. Guam, you deserve better and more. Shelley Calvo, she cares for you all. Shelley Calvo, she cares and does more. Shelley Calvo, for everyone. Shelley cares for Guam.
I'm Shelley Calvo, number 3, Republican, and I approve this message.
This is Guam's new breed of leaders, Republicans who will bring excitement,
Fresh ideas and new energy to the legislature.
Together with the GOP's veteran leadership,
this amazing slate of candidates come with experience,
strength, and success that will serve you well.
The majority has failed us too long.
It's time to restore honor in the legislature.
It's time for priorities that reflect the needs of our people,
not the whims of the lawmaker.
It's time to bring back accountability
and values.
It's time to expect more
and get more. It's time.
Vote Republican for a change.
Vota Republican. Por favor, vota Republican.
Viva Republican!
On Guam, family is everything. We care for our aging parents and for our kids and grandkids. It's a blessing, but for some working families, it's also a lot. I'm Ginger Cruz. I approve this ad because caring for family isn't always easy, but it shouldn't be impossible. A key priority for me in DC will be working to expand federal child care for Guam families, fully fund universal pre-K, and increase access to elder care insurance and assisted living support. Because on Guam, we are all family.
Hafa Day, I'm Annette Ada. My husband Tony and I have been together for more than 40 years. He's an amazing husband, father, and grandfather. Tony has always answered the call to serve, whether it be as a soldier in the U.S. Army, as a member in various community organizations, or as a multi-term lawmaker. This coming November, please give him the chance to once again serve our island. Please vote for my husband, Tony Ada, for Senator. Thank you.
I'm Tony Ada, and I approve this message.
Hafa Day Guam, last year we worked with members of Congress and so many others and collectively secured over $3.2 billion in federal investments for Guam. This resulted in $132 million in excess tax collections. The extra money from these tax collections are being allocated to GMH, public safety, education, and so much more. This is just the start, and I humbly ask for your vote for Congress. Thank you.
Candidates, you now each get 3 minutes for your closing remarks, and we'll begin with Congressman Moylan.
Thank you. There we are.
There you go.
I enjoyed my evening here tonight, and I want to thank you all for coming. I want to start off by saying when I got into Congress, I had to establish a presence. And I did that right from the start. Went out there and sold the island of Guam. Got to know the people I needed to know to get into the committees that are important to the island of Guam. That's the House Armed Services for our national defense. That's natural resources for the Department of Interior. And most recently, they added a third, which is unprecedented for a new freshman. That's Foreign Affairs, Indo-PACOM area, And I want to continue to do the job for the people of Guam. Learned so much in the first year, did so much in the first year, and because of our presence and because of our ability to work across the board with Democrats, most importantly in committee, working really hard, we were able to get $3.2 billion within the first year, additional money through the NDAA, through amendments that were important for our agencies on Guam, for our community safety, for the water, for the infrastructure, most importantly for Port Authority, and repairing the breakwater as well. That's crucial. It's one storm away from being destroyed. That would be devastating for the island, but we're working on that now. And I want to see that through the finish. There's so much I can get done for the people of Guam. And I want to work for the people of Guam to do that, to listen to everyone. I work well with the governor of Guam. I testified before the Guam legislature. I met all the mayors and asked them what did they need. I work with the agencies too as well. I don't shut anybody out. I put myself out there on the air. I am transparent. I'm not perfect. I learn, and I want to continue to grow. It's important for longevity to keep its movement in Congress. It builds trust. It builds respect. And it builds yourself up within the committees that you work for. That gives you more authority to authorize money for your island. I work well with the CNMI, Kalili. I work well with American Samoa, Wataragan. I work well in my committees. I am proud to serve the island of Guam. I'm a soldier, I'm a veteran. I have worked for the government of Guam as a safety officer. I've worked in the private industry. And most recently, I was a member of Senate. And I know what it takes to negotiate and write measures, and I want to continue to use this experience and the experience I gained in the first term in Congress. We pushed hard, we worked our team, and we can do a lot more. Get me back in Congress. I appreciate this time. God bless you all.
Congressman Moylan, thank you so much for your closing remarks. Now, Candidate Cruz, your 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. So when do we know that it's time to change course? As soon as you find out that we're heading in the wrong direction. And over the last 2 years, I have seen missed opportunity, and I have seen the threats that are facing our island. And that is the reason that I am running for Congress. Because if we don't change course now with Washington, D.C., we may lose this window of opportunity forever. Now, my opponent, he's tried his best, but you know what? He lost $300 million in compact impact. He's not been able to get compensation for our downwinders, and I don't believe that that's going to happen under Mike Johnson. And he hasn't done anything to really diversify our economy or even shore up tourism, the things that matter outside of the fence. And what does he do? He instead claims credit for things that the Biden administration has given to the people of Guam. That $3.2 billion, that was done by the Department of Defense and the Biden administration. And so when you're looking at that, and you're looking at the stuff that he's doing with his plus minus, it's a shell game because this Congress is dysfunctional. And then he's got this whole thing that he's doing with the veterans, where you're talking about gaslighting veterans, telling them they're going to be able to help them with assistive vehicles, when in fact it won't actually do anything. And that's because he doesn't have a plan. I have a plan. You can read it on gingercruz.com. I have the experience. I have a network in Washington, D.C. that I'm already tapping and talking to on a whole range of issues. And I know that they are going to be able to help the people of Guam. And you know the first thing I'm going to do when I get in there? I'm going to do something that he didn't do. Have a professional staff with a legislative director who understands how to get things through both the Senate and the House. He doesn't have that kind of staff. We need that around a Guam team, and then we tackle issues. We tackle our economic issues. We bring down the cost of living. We diversify our economy. We have to shore up our tourism. And then we also need to look at things like healthcare. We need to get more reimbursement for the Guam Memorial Hospital. We need to get rid of the Medicaid cap. And then for our working families, we have to do more. We've got to provide more opportunities for childcare. We have to deal with elderly care because this is a growing issue on Guam. And we have to talk about lowering the cost of housing. This and much more, it's available on gingercruz.com. You can read my plan. You can even give me input on it. But at the end of the day, the difference between us is I am going to aim high. I am going to have the best possible professional team, and we are going to work very, very hard and never relent. And we are going to fight for the people of Guam. And I promise you that if you elect me, and I humbly ask you for your vote, if you elect me to that position, to be Guam's delegate in Congress, I promise you that you will be very proud of what we can do together. Thank you, Sidza Usmaasi, and I appreciate you all.
Candidate Ginger Cruz, Congressman James Moylan, thank you both so much for the opportunity at the time. The voters very much appreciate it. And thank you also to the Encore Theater. Don't forget to check out the magic show here at the Crowne Plaza Resort here in Tumon. That's your KUAM News 2024 Congressional Debate. We will have more Decision 2024 news in the weeks ahead of the November 5th general election, just 28 days away. Please get out there and vote, period. I'm Nick Delgado. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.